All right, we're just after 10 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Thank you for joining this week's long coffee break. My name's Austin Whiteley. I am a mechanical sales rep out of our Fort Collins office. This week, we are going to be talking about Condair. We're going to go through a quick product overview and discuss some new features that they have in their selection software. Tom, thank you for joining. Take it away, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. So hopefully you know who Condair is. We used to be called Nortec Humidification. We've same company, same great people, same products. In fact, expanded products besides that, but just had a name change. So with this, what we're talking about is making smarter humidification decisions with a new product that we've got out called EcoPro. And EcoPro isn't necessarily a physical product, and we'll explain that. But I also wanted to just put an overview there. Condair is a private company, but it says we're one of the world's largest. I believe we are the world's largest leader in humidification. We do evaporative cooling, so the data center world is in our purview. The healthcare markets, everywhere that you might be familiar with, we do that as well. And we're now into dehumidification. We've started with desiccant wheels. But you can kind of get an idea there from 1948 all the way up to today, 2026. Okay. Another view of Condair globally. This keeps expanding. My boss today is down in Mexico, kind of expanding down there as well. But you can see North America is well covered, Europe's well covered, product manufacturing sites across the globe as well as logistics and support. Okay. Just wanted to really briefly, and I mean really briefly, if you decide that you want more information about humidifiers, humidification, evaporative cooling, evaporative humidification, adiabatic world, please let your sales engineer at Long know, and be more than happy to schedule actual in-person lunch and learn with you to talk about these things more in depth. But on the isothermal side, this is probably where you know us the best. If you know Nortec from the past and Condair from today, we have two different electric units in EL and RS. The EL is the plastic cylinder for electrode, EL. RS, resistive element, so think electric water heater. Those are the two electrics. Gas-fired units, condensing these days. We were first to market with condensing. And then we do, you either have to take a blower and blow that steam into a space like a yoga studio, or you're going to put it into a ducted air handler. Thus, we have distribution grids, both small ones and large ones, and then central steam. If you still want to tap off that boiler that your customer has, both live steam still available, as well as steam to steam exchanger. So we can take that live steam and reboil it into atmospheric steam, clean, drinkable, potable water that you can make into nice, clean steam. Off to the right there, adiabatic systems. We both do in duct. That would be this funky DL. It's called DL for dual technologies. It's both the sprayed water as well as a permanent ceramic plate system, which greatly reduces the amount of water that you waste down the drain, as well as the length of air handler that you have to take up to do an adiabatic system. Typically 2 to 3 feet from the nozzles to the back of the ceramic plates. MEMC, media evaporative. Those basically, you're looking at an evaporative cooler, affectionately known down south as a swamp cooler. We don't call them that anymore because we don't grow green crap in the water. We have UV lights. We've got ways to keep that water nice and fresh, but mainly you're looking at an evaporative cooler. So think large data center, large evaporative cooling spaces. HP, we use both in space. So think digital printing, think manufacturing, think pharmaceutical, think woodworking, that sort of thing. As well as we can do high pressure in an air handler. So if you have the space needed, typically 6 to 8 feet, we can do high pressure, multi-zone, multi-air handler, high pressure water systems. And then down to the right there, an interesting product called a jet spray. We just reintroduced this because of a need in the market. It's compressed air and any sort of water that you want to feed to it. Okay. Bottom left corner, there's our desiccant dehumidifier, a DA, any place where your cooling coil won't give you enough dehumidification to get to, 30% or below. You're going to need a desiccant wheel. We offer this as standalone units. And then as we've gone into the market more in depth, both on the adiabatic side as well as isothermal side, we've had the need to go ahead and supply reverse osmosis water. So instead of cleaning scale out of a humidifier that boils water, we go ahead and filter it out ahead of that, put it into an easier spot to maintain. If you have a gas-fired unit on the roof, nobody really wants to go on the roof in the middle of winter to descale it or vacuum out scale. So you can go ahead and use reverse osmosis water in the main building, pump that water up, and boil that water with virtually no minerals in it. So kind of a quick overview of Condair and our broad portfolio. Obviously sizes and scale and all that kind of good stuff. We're not going to talk about that today. If you need that, let us know and we'll be more than happy to expand upon it. So let's talk about this new product called EcoPro. Why, what, how? Well, EcoPro is a product, not a physical product like one of these, but a product nonetheless. And what it is, it's a tool to compare different humidification products. Why do we call it a product? It's called a product because you can sell it. You then now have the ability to actually make more informed decisions along with your customer, your end user, to make a more informed decision about which humidifier would suit them best. Are they more worried about water? Are they more worried about energy consumption? Are they worried about total cost of ownership? All of those things can be extrapolated and looked at through EcoPro itself. You can see here, we'll provide detailed estimates and resource usage and life cycle costs. Main capabilities on it, we're the first of its kind to do an 8,760 hour energy and water analysis for our humidification systems. Both isothermal, so in other words, if you wanted to compare, somebody wanted to look at, 200 pound of electric versus a 200-pound gas unit versus a 200-pound evaporative water system, we can do all three of those in one comparison and give you a printout. Okay, gives total cost of ownership. The only product we're not putting in here would be our dehumidification series, because really what you're looking at there, it's a completely different process to absorb water out of a system rather than evaporating it or boiling it. So it doesn't make sense to put dehumidification there against other humidification products. So we can give you estimates of cost of running that product, but it really doesn't make sense to compare it at this point. So values and benefits. Why did we do this? For years, I'm almost a 15-year veteran. I'm the national sales manager for Condair nowadays. But for many years, I carried what I affectionately called, I carried the bag on the East Coast. And I had many engineers asking us, hey, look, we have a pretty good feeling that a large adiabatic system would be better for this customer, would save them money. But the proof's in the numbers, and we need to see some numbers. And we, for a long time, really couldn't. Nobody really could until now. And what we can do now is we can show you water usage. We can show you energy usage. You can put in pumping power for hydronic hot water, all sorts of different parameters that we can set up in here. We can put in economizer schedules and look at economizer function. You can understand your first costs versus your reoccurring costs, your total life cycle costs, up to 3 different products. Okay. Obviously, we're looking at water. We're looking at energy. Both are important. Both are precious resources, and we want to try to minimize those as much as we can for the most part. Now, every customer might have a different goal, right? If we're building a brand new data center, maybe they're more worried about water usage versus power, right? We can ship power via wires from someplace else, but maybe they can't get more water. Maybe they're in the local municipality says, hey, I can't use water. So maybe in that case, we do focus on the least water usage. Opposite could be true. Maybe somebody says, hey, you know what? We don't have more power that they can give us. Our grid's full in this local area. We'd prefer to reduce the amount of energy we consume versus the amount of water usage. And then obviously you've got that blended. Let's just compare all three and take the lowest cost of ownership. Okay? So project data. What are we going to need? Well, to really do this right, and I think a lot of you have already looked at energy analysis models, so you kind of have a feeling of what we're looking at, size of the building, the location, operating hours, the envelope performance. Is it a brand new building with proper insulation, proper air gap, et cetera, versus something that, might be 20 years or even 50 years old and our envelope performance isn't quite as good, right? What kind of HVAC system do we have? What kind of energy are we running? Are we running a steam boiler? Are we running hydronic hot water? All of those pieces and parts affect what we're doing here. What are the Condair products? If you're looking for financial analysis, we'll ask you for even more stuff. What's your time period? What's your inflation rate? What's the discount rate? Obviously, with any sort of energy analysis tool, the more we do this with you, the easier it becomes because a lot of this data just becomes safe data. We know what our KW cost is in this area. Okay. So what do you get out of Condair EcoPro? Well, obviously, I've mentioned before, you're going to get energy and water use summaries, flags for most energy and water efficiency. Kind of details humidification load and the number of hours that you might need to be using it. If you want the financial information, those going to give you, first cost, recurrent costs, utility costs, et cetera, and benefits and considerations of each product. What you're going to get for an output is something similar to this. Very useful local energy rebates that you can use it for. You can use it for environmental consciousness, decarbonization, first cost, total costs, etc. Okay. Next one is my favorite, and most of my regional managers' favorites, and most of my agent and engineers' favorites, because it's a simple line graph, right? What are our crossover points? So here, what you can see is there's a product at the bottom that truly outperforms everything, because the crossover point is actually it doesn't perform because the crossover point is so far to the right that maybe we shouldn't even consider it. You can look at something like a DL in this case versus HP, which is two different adiabatic products, and you can see in this case it crossed over a little under 5 years. Okay, so let me give you some brief, examples how to use it. Goal in healthcare. Let's compare the cost breakdown between adiabatic and electrical system for a hospital, right? So we can do high pressure, which is that 8 to 10 foot, or 8 to 10 foot of humidification, or 6 to 8 feet of air handler space. They wanted to compare the DL, which is our 2 to 3 feet of humidification space, and then a RS, which is your traditional electric resistive element humidifier. And you can see from here, first cost, you're better off with let me just double check this one. First costs, recurring costs, you get a graph here that you can go ahead and look at. First cost with the RS is fine, but the recurring cost on the RS is 150% more, right? HP, 48% less, but you're 56% more on energy, recurring costs and maintenance costs. And then you get the total utility costs and cooling savings, because it will factor in evaporation cooling savings. In certain cases, you will see a negative cooling because we're not cooling the environment at all, like isothermal of the RS series. And it shows you total water usage, right? In this case, you can see the little blue droplet, which says, hey, you know what? The RS uses the least amount of water. Then next would be this DL, and then the worst would be the high pressure bogging. Okay. So again, we're going to provide a lot of data. we're going to provide data that you can look at along with, if you need our help with it, great. You can look at it with your local agent. You can look at it with your ownership that's trying to build that new building or new facility of some sort, and use it with them to create better long-term decisions for whatever they need. Okay. Let me give you a real usage case. My regional manager in the Great Lakes region, actually right before Christmas, had a meeting with an engineer, a hospital end user, and his agency. So it's four different parties sitting in this meeting. And what they were looking at is they had 3 air handlers that they were going to put on this brand new hospital project. Okay. Only one of those air handlers per code needed to be humidified. So with the help of the agent and Condair, we actually did an energy analysis of the first air handler versus live steam or boiler steam. So what would it cost them to install a boiler? After that, we compared it against both the high pressure fogging system as well as this hybrid DL product. And what they found is there was a net negative energy consumption when they were using this adiabatic product. What does that mean? It means they humidified and they saved money at the same time. To the point where the crossover point was about 2.5 years of crossover point for the cost, the extra cost of the adiabatic system. It basically piqued the interest of the engineer and the ownership group at the hospital so much, they said, well, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I can humidify this airstream for net negative energy savings, and it's only a 2 to 3 year payback. And we confirmed it and looked it over. Instead of humidifying one air handler, they decided to go all 3 because, that there is one thing that, this last pandemic, the COVID pandemic, taught a whole bunch of people, including healthcare and hospitals and engineers, and is that humidification is a great thing. You keep your humidified space around 45%. You reduce all sorts of healthcare acquired infections and mold and virus and mildew and all sorts of VOCs and all sorts of things like that. But for the most part, most hospitals, even though they understood this, couldn't quantify the cost of healthcare acquired infection that well. They can, but it's something they kind of like to keep close to their chest. So with EcoPro, what it meant is that we could actually show them energy savings, and then they could take along on top of that, they can have their cake and eat it too, meaning, hey, we can humidify 100% of this hospital, which is the trend in the industry. We know that we'll save on absenteeism. We know we'll save on healthcare acquired infection rates. We know that our employees will be happier and healthier in a humidified building. Less problems with contacts, less problem with dry skin, less problem with patients with skin lesions and pressure ulcers and all sorts of things like that. And by showing actual hard data, we're able to swing this project to 3 humidified systems and 100% humidification. Manufacturing could be another place where we do it. In this case, customers looking at media evaporative versus gas. Rooftop unit, what's the impact of using RO water for a media evaporative system? You can see that when you put a media evaporative system with just plain potable water, it decreased the water usage by about 400,000 liters, so 100,000 gallons or so. So you can see energy use versus cost use. All of those were good for the customer, so they decided to go with potable water and a media evaporative system instead of a large gas-fired humidifier. Okay. Now the manufacturing case, not going to worry about that too much, but I think if we have any questions, I know Long is going to give out some break prizes I asked where my gift card was for the shell, and they said it's in the mail, but you guys are local, so you can bug them about you getting your shell card or your infusion kit. That looks interesting as well. Put some High West from their southern territory into that little kit, and you might have something going. And then a tortilla blanket. I've seen something like this at Buc-ee's, but it had the Buc-ee's all over it. I've never seen one that looked like a tortilla. I wonder if it's edible as well, so you could snack on it as well as warm yourself up at the same time.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate you going through the prizes. Thank you, everybody, for joining and sticking around with us till the end. Please join us next week for Valent here to discuss air sorts, heat pumps, and their additional offerings. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great day.
Thank you.